Okay, so picture this. You're thinking about doing something, I don't know, maybe a bit risky, something really outside your normal day-to-day, like maybe even that team building thing where people walk over hot coals.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those.
Intense.
Right. Before you'd even think about putting a foot forward, you'd want to know exactly what you were getting into. You'd talk to people who've done it, learn the ropes, understand the risks. You wouldn't just, jump in.
Absolutely. And that image, it's actually a pretty good mirror for what lots of companies face when they start thinking about big changes.
Big transformations.
Yeah, exactly. Things like adopting Agile or bringing in AI, new tech, or maybe just totally overhauling how they do things. You're messing with the fundamental wiring of the company.
So it's not just a small tweak.
Not at all. It's a deep shift. And just like walking on coals, if you haven't done your prep work, well, it can really hurt. Okay, and that's pretty much what we're digging into today. We've got this great material that lays out 6 really critical questions. Questions you absolutely need solid answers to before you launch into any big transformation.
6 key questions.
Yep, and hang tight because there's a bonus one at the end too, which might actually be the most revealing one.
And skipping these questions, I mean, the cost can be huge. We're talking about the whole thing potentially failing.
It's a whole initiative.
Or even dragging the whole company down.
Yeah.
And think about the waste time, people's energy, effort, money, all down the drain. If you care about your company's future, you really can't afford not to ask these.
It sounds like it all starts with being really honest with yourself, doesn't it? A proper look in the mirror.
Definitely. You need a clear picture of where you are now. Strengths, weaknesses, the company's basic makeup. Before you decide if now is even the right moment for such a huge leap.
All right, let's dive in then. First big question. Culture. Does our company culture actually, support this kind of change? Is the foundation strong enough?
Culture is fascinating, isn't it? It's like the company's DNA woven into everything. So the first piece here is there a genuine openness to learning? Like a habit of continuous learning?
We're learning culture.
Exactly. Is learning, reflecting, adapting just part of the normal rhythm? Or is the company more stuck in that kind of plan, do cycle without much real evolution?
Because if you're not already learning as you go,
then expecting this massive transformation to just stick, it's probably not realistic. You'll hit a wall of resistance. People might just snap back to old ways when things get tough.
yeah, or they won't talk about what went wrong so nobody learns. Like trying to grow something in, I don't know, concrete.
That's a good way to put it. You need fertile ground. And tied to that is innovation, right? Does the culture actually encourage new ideas?
The material we're looking at mentioned that sometimes there are like historical reasons, traditions that might make innovation tricky.
Precisely. And it's not about throwing that history away. It's about understanding it. How might those deep-seated ways of doing things affect change? Can you actually challenge them enough?
Or maybe you need to start smaller.
Maybe. You might need to be realistic at first, aim for what's actually doable now, and build from there. It's about knowing the landscape you're working in.
Okay, another huge cultural piece that jumped out was psychological safety. Why is that so critical when you're changing things up?
Oh, it's absolutely vital. Because, look, any big change means learning new stuff. And learning, it means making mistakes. It's unavoidable.
Right, you can't learn without messing up sometimes.
Exactly. So if people are terrified of being blamed or, punished for those mistakes, they just won't take risks. They won't experiment. They won't truly buy into the new ways.
They'll play it safe.
Totally. They'll stick to the old stuff, even if it's inefficient, just because it feels safer. And that just kills the experimentation you need for transformation. You need people to feel okay saying, hey, I tried this, didn't quite work out, so everyone can learn without fear.
And underlying all that, it sounds like you just need a basic level of trust.
Definitely. Trust in the leadership, that they actually know where they're going and have everyone's best interests at heart.
And trust between colleagues, too, that everyone's pouring their weight.
Yes. Without that trust, you've got instant suspicion. People will doubt the motives behind the change.
Yeah.
They need to believe leadership has a clear vision and that their coworkers are also committed. A lack of trust. It could just sink the whole thing before it even starts.
Okay, culture's huge. Let's shift to question 2. Leadership. Is the leadership really engaged? Seems obvious, but apparently not always the case.
Yeah, it's surprising how often this is a weak spot. And it's about the kind of engagement, It's not enough for leaders to just, okay, the transformation, put it on a Gantt chart, and then delegate it away.
Like it's just another project to track.
Right. The material we're drawing from warns about this.
Hmm.
a transactional acquisition approach, like buying new software.
Yeah.
You buy it, someone else installs it, and you just expect it to work without you getting your hands dirty.
Yeah. But transformation isn't like that. It affects everyone, including the leaders.
That's the key point. It requires change at every single level. Leaders need to figure out how this change impacts them, their roles, their teams, their own work.
What new skills might they need?
Exactly. If they aren't asking those questions about themselves, that's a pretty big red flag for engagement. And another interesting point raised is that leaders often lack actual change management skills.
Really? Even experienced leaders?
Yeah, they might be experts in finance or operations, but navigating big organizational shifts. That takes a specific skill set, understanding the people side of things.
So it boils down to leaders needing more than just a vision.
Much more. They need that clear vision, sure, where are we going, but also a real visible commitment to getting there.
Yeah.
Actively clearing roadblocks, communicating constantly, showing up, especially when it gets tough.
Not just talking the talk.
Exactly. Walking the walk, demonstrating that commitment consistently.
Okay, commitment from the top. Got it. Question 3, skills. Do we actually have the skills right now to pull this transformation off? And this is a crucial distinction the video made, isn't it?
Yes, very important.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the skills people will learn because of the change.
Like the end goal skills.
Right. We're talking about the skills needed today to actually do the transformation work.
Think about it like this. Say you want this amazing AI system for customer service,
Okay.
but your basic tech, it's ancient. The video used the Windows 95 example, which is maybe extreme, but paints the picture.
Huh, yeah. Can't run complex AI on Windows 95.
Exactly. You might actually need a whole separate transformation first, just to upgrade your basic tech infrastructure before you can even start on the AI stuff. Or maybe your customer data is all over the place in different systems that don't talk to each other.
So you need to fix that first. That's an infrastructure skill challenge right there.
Precisely. It's foundational. And the video also touched on Kaikaku versus Kaizen, radical change versus small steps. Yeah, how does our current skill level influence that choice?
Well, a huge radical overhaul, Kaikaku. That often means you need a massive, rapid skill shift. Maybe bringing in lots of new people or completely retraining existing ones. It's disruptive, complex.
Higher risk?
Definitely. But even the small steps approach, Kaita-san, still needs a baseline. Your teams need to have adaptable skills already. Technical skills, soft skills, and importantly, that ability and willingness to keep learning. You can't do continuous improvement if people can't adapt or learn new things along the way.
Makes sense. Which leads nicely into question 4, technology and infrastructure. Do we have the tech capability for growth and for this change?
Yeah, they're really closely linked. That Windows 95 thing comes up again. You need that solid foundation. And today, especially with remote teams or global companies,
Communication tools are key.
absolutely critical. Everyone needs access to the same info, needs to be able to work together easily, join meetings, participate fully, no matter where they are. Consistent access is non-negotiable.
So it's not just having tech, but having tech that's robust enough and reliable.
And crucially, scalable. It has to handle what you're throwing at it now and what you expect to throw at it as the transformation progresses and hopefully as the company grows because of it.
Because if the tech can't keep up,
You get bottlenecks, delays, frustration. It could literally stall the whole thing right when you're in the thick of it, derail the whole effort.
Okay, very practical point. Question 5 shifts gears a bit to support systems. Do we have the right support, both internal and maybe external? I could see companies trying to just use their own people for this.
Yeah, and that can be tempting, maybe seems cheaper initially. But the material raises a really insightful point, referencing that idea. The mind that created the problem can't solve it.
Meaning people inside might be too close to it.
Sort of.
Yeah.
If you're really embedded in the current way of doing things, it can be genuinely hard to see the need for radical change, or to even imagine totally different ways of operating. You might have blind spots.
That makes a lot of sense. So that's where outside help comes in. External experts.
Exactly. Experienced external folks bring fresh eyes. They've seen this movie before. They've seen transformations work, and importantly, they've seen them fail elsewhere. They can help you avoid common traps.
But they don't know our company like we do.
And that's the crucial other half. You need a real partnership. Your internal people. They know the culture, the politics, the history, where the resistance might pop up. Combining that internal knowledge with external expertise, that's the sweet spot for navigating the tricky bits and making sure changes actually stick.
So it's a collaboration.
A true collaboration. taking those expert ideas and tailoring them with internal know-how to take manageable steps.
And the material also mentions specific support skills like facilitation
Yeah.
and moderation.
Yes, super important. Good facilitation keeps communication flowing. It helps surface all the ideas, make sure everyone's heard, and then distills all that input into actual actionable plans.
Keeps things moving productively.
Right. And moderation. That's key when things get tense. Change inevitably brings disagreements, conflicts. Skilled moderators can manage those tough conversations, keep them constructive, and help people find resolutions without derailing progress. Both skills are essential support beams.
Okay, sixth question, organizational attitude. Are people generally open to this change and willing to accept the risks that come with it? This feels like it connects back to culture again.
It definitely does, but it's drilling down specifically on the willingness to step into the unknown. The material points squarely at that, but we've always done it this way.
Mindset, a classic barrier.
Yeah, and often it's rooted in fear, right? Fear of losing your job, fear of not being able to cope with a new way, just general anxiety about change. People cling to the familiar, even if it's not working that well anymore.
And that resistance can show up in subtle ways or not so subtle ways.
Absolutely. So a big part of the attitude check is, are we willing as an organization to accept some risk? Because transformation isn't neat and tidy. There will be bumps. There will be things that don't go as planned.
Setbacks are almost guaranteed.
Pretty much. So the focus can't be on avoiding all risk that's impossible. It needs to be on how do we handle challenges when they pop up? How do we learn from them and keep moving? Building that resilience.
And it also comes down to genuinely wanting to improve, doesn't it? Having that innovative spark.
Exactly. If the dominant attitude is what we have now is fine, maybe even perfect, then why are you even considering a transformation? There has to be a real shared desire to get better, to try new things. That attitude is the fuel. Without it, the engine won't start or it'll sputter out quickly.
Okay, that covers the 6 main ones. Now, the bonus question you mentioned, understanding what you're actually buying, sounds like a warning label.
Maybe a little. What's really interesting and a bit worrying is how often organizations throw huge amounts of money and people power at transformations without really getting what they're signing up for.
They haven't fully grasped the details.
Or the true value, or what it will realistically demand from them. The source material calls it the risk of snake oil purchases. You get sold this amazing vision.
That sounds great on paper.
But it doesn't actually match what the product really is or what your organization can realistically handle or achieve with it.
So it's about doing serious homework, asking the really tough, specific questions before you commit.
Absolutely. Digging into the nitty-gritty. What does this really involve? What resources, what effort, what disruption? And what are the actual measurable results we can realistically expect?
No guarantees, but realistic expectations.
Exactly. Getting super clear on that end goal, that North Star, and understanding the real path to get there. That clarity lets you make a much more grounded decision about whether you're truly ready for this specific transformation right now. If it sounds too easy or the requirements seem fuzzy,
Big red flag, pause and dig deeper.
you got it. Pause and reevaluate.
Wow. So the big picture here, the main takeaway from all this is really just do your homework, seriously.
That's the core message. Take the time. Have those honest, sometimes difficult internal conversations. Answer these critical questions thoroughly before you take that first step onto what's often a pretty complex road.
Because being ready isn't just saying you want to change.
Not at all. It's about having those foundations solid, the culture, leadership, skills, tech, support, attitude, and being crystal clear on what you're aiming for and what it's truly going to take.
This has been super insightful. It really drives home that transformation is so much more than just, new software or a new org chart.
It really is. It demands deep self-awareness, that honest assessment we talked about, and just really careful preparation.
And it leaves us with a pretty powerful thought to chew on, doesn't it?
I think so. The question really becomes, what fundamental beliefs, what core assumptions about how your organization works are you actually willing to challenge and maybe even let go of?
In order to actually transform.
Yeah, in pursuit of that meaningful, lasting change. That's a big one for anyone starting this journey to really think about.
Definitely food for thought. And hey, if listeners want to dive even deeper into these concepts, see some of the visuals we touched on.
Right, the source videos.
Exactly. Be sure to click the thumbnails or check out the links in the description. There's a lot more detail there to help guide you.